What's up, Game Boys and Girls? Big T here, back with another video, and this video is about my second all-time favorite console, and that is the Sega Saturn. Only slightly beaten out by the N64, mainly because most of the games that I think are phenomenal or fantastic, the best games, didn't come to North America, and so I had to slight it a little bit there, because it's not really fair to say, oh, look at all these Japanese games that didn't come over, makes it better. I mean, I still wouldn't say it's better than my N64, because impact-wise, so me as a gamer, it's hard to beat the tried and true, beautiful N64. I have 3 of them over here. I have 5 in total. Love me some N64. But Sega Saturn was phenomenal, and this is just a case in point of a system doing well does not matter in the case that it's a great console or not. Sometimes consoles come out at the wrong time. They just missed the market. They're too early. They're too late. And that's what happens. I think that's what happened with Wii U to some extent. Obviously, some of it was self-inflicted from Nintendo as far as the marketing goes, and some of the game releases, the time and whatnot, on a lot of the game releases and utilizing the gamepad, stuff like that. But the console is phenomenal. It is a excellent console, by the way, if you mod that bad boy out today. But boy, it's fantastic. Maybe I'll do that in another video, talk about that. But this is about the Sega Saturn, and I wanted to get this out before the summer ends, because the Sega Saturn launched 30 years ago plus in 1995, and I kind of wanted to celebrate its 30-year anniversary, 30 years of Sega Saturn. I don't want to dive too much into the history and all that stuff, because I have a pretty good video. I might have to update that video, called The Rise and Fall of Sega Saturn. Look that up. It'll tell you all about the beginnings and the end of the Sega Saturn. I spent a lot of time on that, what was that, 10 years ago? Oh my God, I can't believe it's been so long. Years and years ago. So probably more than that. So check that out. I love the Sega Saturn. It's amazing. Sega is, one of my favorite gaming companies of all time. Obviously, they faltered as far as where they were before, with neck and neck with the Nintendo and whatnot. And the industry changed, and so they couldn't adapt well enough. They didn't have the money to continue to compete. Even though the Dreamcast was another amazing console, which we'll talk about at some point as well. I think I have already. I know I've shown my collection at least. But let's get into this video, because it's going to be long. I'm trying to make it as short as possible, but it's going to be a longer video. Just going to go over just some of the phenomenal games on the Sega Saturn that you should pick up if you don't have them already. Sega Saturn is notoriously one of the most expensive consoles to collect for, so God bless you if you're starting right now. Most of my games, a little chunk of my games were donated, but most of the games that I have, I bought, years, decades ago even, and most of my Japanese games were definitely in the late 90s I purchased, because that is where I really got my Sega Saturn on, at a little store called Blockbuster Games, the one in our mall near us, and Tampa Bay Center, which is no longer there. It is now a parking lot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers training facility, I believe. But it used to be my favorite mall to go to back in the day, and go to specifically Blockbuster Games, which was owned by Blockbuster Video, that did the rentals. But Blockbuster Games was basically a GameStop, but it's Blockbuster. Who owns it? So they didn't last for that long. I think by 2002 they were mostly gone, if I'm not mistaken. But loved going there. So let's get into the games. Well, first of all, let's get into the console. The console itself launched in 1995. Like I said, they were very worried about Sony, and rightfully so. This is my day one console. Well, not day one, but this is the console I bought first. I didn't get a Sega Saturn until early 96, I want to say, after they did the 3 free games promotion, because it was pretty well known by then that the system was in trouble. So Sega themselves decided to drop the price and try to get some systems sold, because it's launched at $4.99, and the Sony PlayStation notoriously launched at $3.99. That was their press conference. Somebody from there got up on the stage and said $3.99, and that was the whole press conference. They left, and so Sega was scrambling. So what they tried to do was launch this thing too early. It's supposed to come out, I believe, in September of '95, but they ended up launching it like right there at E3, which was in May of that year. It fluctuated. I think it was May of that year. And so a lot of retailers were like, what? We thought we were going to have time to get ready for their launch. And so they were pissed off. I remember KB Toys, who also is not around anymore, but was a big store back in the day, KB Toy Store, which I also bought a lot of video games from. They were upset. They basically said, we're not selling the Sega Saturn, and so they didn't. I'm not sure if another retailer did that, but I know KB did that. So they didn't even sell Sega Saturns or Sega Saturn games or anything like that as a basically as a retaliation for them forcing that console out there on them without them being able, ready for it and whatnot. So I think they just didn't have stock for them, and that kind of pissed them off too. They didn't have enough stock. So, but they wanted to get the leg up on PlayStation, and it helped. I think they sold like 300,000 within the time before PlayStation came out, but I think PlayStation sold 300,000 in like a month. So I think they're just they caught up within like a month of release or whatever. But the games weren't ready. We'll get into that later. But here's the console itself. I love the design and look of the console. This is back when consoles were looking like video game consoles. It's sleek. You got your two controller ports there. You got your power and your reset button over here, and your eject or open the lid button. And in there you can see my copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga. This is the repro copy. I don't have the original. I had the original briefly. I think I rented it back in the day. But I never finished it back then. I never bought it. I wish I did, because it's super expensive right now, like $500 plus for a complete copy, North American. A little cheaper for PAL for some reason, but yeah, a little dusty in here. I'll explain why, because it's not like I don't play it. I play this a lot, but here we go. And back here's a cartridge slot, which I thought was going to be for Sega Genesis cartridges. Oh, that's great. We'll get to that in a second. Back here was the VCD slot, or is the VCD slot. You could put on like videos and whatnot. It was on like a hard drive thing. You can slide it in there. And right there is the battery. What do they call those batteries? CR somethings. And that's your memory. That's where your memory gets saved to, and it's super unreliable because these batteries specifically die within a year, and you just lost your save files. But as I was alluding to here, it's this cartridge slot right here. This is not for Sega Genesis cartridges, no. This is for memory expansion, unlike the N64, or not unlike, but just like the N64, where they have the expansion slot where you can put N64 expansion pack. That's what this is for. I think it's 4 megabytes as well, if I'm not mistaken. Same. We'll make sure of that in a minute. But also, some of them acted as like expansions plus memory. So some of them have memory cards on the carts themselves. Here's one here. This is an action replay. 4 megabytes. Oh, that's really light. All right, action replay for M plus. I don't think this one had memory on it. I don't remember. Because I haven't used it very often. Not sure why, but I think this might do. Might do. I think this does actually have memory on the card itself. But yeah, this is for specific Japanese games that needed the extra RAM, and those are mostly fighting games, as we'll get into in a second. But yeah, that's what it's for. Slide it in there. And yeah, it's great. That's a sticker, by the way. It's a sticker I got. I think when I purchased this, it came with it, so I just slapped it on there. But yeah, this is a really sleek console. Love it. I love the design. Well built, nice and sturdy, and yeah, it's great. But while we're showing that, let me show you the Sega Saturn I mostly play on currently, and that is the Sega Saturn. This is a Japanese Sega Saturn. I think this is the Model 1, the first one if I'm not mistaken. And it's, you can see the slight differences with the power button, different design, shape, different color and whatnot. The system itself is also a different color. There was multiple models that came out. There's a white one. There's this is something like a copyright, not copyright. What do you call it? A licensed one. I can't remember what it was called. But it was like a smoke, like see-through black version, which I don't have, but I want to get at some point. But yeah, let's put them together so you can see the differences there. But yeah, I play on this one a lot because... Oh, wrong one. Put the wrong one back. All right, because I have my games loaded on here. This is a HD loader from Saru. See it right there, HD loader. And I have a, where is it? You can kind of see it there. Memory card, micro SD card right there. Slide it in there, and you can run games off of here. And play them like that. I bought this later because the disk drive on this actually doesn't work, and I knew I was going to do a different mod for this, where you actually pull out the disk reader, the disk drive, and put in a different drive that has a memory card slot onto that, because this hadn't been figured out yet, how to get the games to run out of here. There was they figured out how to do that mod where you run it through the disk drive, or disk drive replacement. They found a way to use this slot back here, the VCD, I think it's called VCD slot back here, and finally they figured out how to use this slot. That was the last slot they figured out how to utilize to get games to run off of the memory card here. So the modding scene for Saturn has been long and crazy, and they finally, I think, mostly cracked this thing, because it was a little complicated to develop for, which was one of the issues with games being released and how they ran and whatnot and how they looked. But this is fantastic now. So the Action Plus, the other one I showed you, you need this to play kind of homebrew games, but also to play other region games from European and for PAL region and Japanese region. You need one of these to play those Japanese games. And this also does all of that. It also has obviously memory card, but also you can run the games right off of this. So fantastic. So it allows me to run my games off of original hardware, but also have the convenience of emulation, where it's just, you're just selecting games from files and you play them that way. So I love this thing. This is amazing. Well, it's not the console itself that's amazing, but it's what the Saru does, and it's great. I highly recommend this for anyone who wants to get into Sega Saturn gaming. If you don't want to get into collecting, because like I said, it's expensive, you can just play the games using a Saru, and you can find a Sega Saturn with the disk drive that doesn't even work. So that's great. Oh, I forgot to grab controllers. Hang on. All right, I'm back. So let's continue on with the hardware side of it, looking at controllers. All right, so here is the standard controller that comes with the Sega Saturn. There's variations on this. There was one that came out before this that had a really funky looking D-pad. It was like almost like a button, like the D-pad on the Nintendo Switch, where it's just kind of buttons, but it was kind of connected, but not really. But this is the one I had with my Sega Saturn, and it's fine. It's a little light for me. I feel like if you weigh the cord and the controller itself, the cord is a little bit slightly heavier. which is crazy. But this is super light, but it's very comfortable. Nice clicky buttons. You got your shoulder buttons, and you got your 6 action buttons, which is great. Basically a continuation of the Sega Genesis gamepad, the 6 action buttons. And yeah, it's great, phenomenal. I think the controls great. The D-pad's great on here, really good. Let's get a good look at it there. There you go. There's the back, but it's super light. I mean, really light. I never really liked that. So, not long after the launch, and there's been some contention on this. I think the N64. Where is it? I left it over there. Hold on. I think the N64 beats it slightly with its analog stick, but this basically came out for the game Nights into Dreams, which you'll see in a bit. Fantastic game. And here is the 3D controller, which went on basically to inspire the Sega Dreamcast controller. You can see some similarities in shape. I wish the Dreamcast controller did do something like keep this style of trigger buttons on here, because these are better. This is more comfortable, but it still needs to come out the way I've talked about before. The Sega Dreamcast controller kind of folds in on itself instead of like pointing out where because your arms want to come out. You don't want to have your arms together like this, your elbows close and parallel. You want them to kind of be like this. But very nice control. This is when I mostly play on when I play the Sega Dreamcast or Sega Saturn. I mostly play using the 3D controller because it has a little switch here that goes from 3D to 2D. Lets you use the D-pad or lets you use the analog stick, which is a really good analog stick. It's nice. It's kind of a ball, and it's kind of has some good traction to it. Works really well. I like it even better than the Sega Dreamcast analog stick. This is better to me. Feels better. But yeah, you have all your action buttons there. You have your big soft power button and your D-pad, and it's great. The cool thing, I guess, is cool for storage reasons anyway. You can hit this little thing here, pull that wire right off of there, and they never did anything else with this. It would have been cool if they had like a wireless option, but they never did that. Maybe you can put out a wireless dongle in there, and then I think that might have been in the cards because this, as you can see, there's electronics in there. It could have been a cool thing, but I mean, wireless controllers weren't that great in those days anyway, so I'm sure it wouldn't have been great. But yeah, just pop it back in there. Like this controller a lot. Wish they would have just used this for the Dreamcast, but they didn't. And then you have Mr. Dusty here, the big old arcade stick, which is phenomenal. It's great. Sega was all about their arcade gaming, and so they really went in on their arcade hardware. And yeah, this is phenomenal. This feels great. I play my fighting games with this bad boy. Obviously, I haven't played in a while. Well, not that long, but it's a little dusty here. I don't like to wrap it that tight because that's how you get shorts in your wires. Let me unwrap this right now. But yeah, this is a fantastic. It's got good weight to it. You put it down on the table, it's not going to be moving around when you're doing all your combos and whatnot. But yeah, this is great. You can get a better little look at it. It's dusty. I need to clean it. But it has all these dials for like turbo, and it's great. It is great. So there you go. Put that to the side. All right. And last piece of hardware I'm going to show right here is something I never used, but I have it. I think this is part of the donation that I got back in the day. And this is the Netlink. So the Sega Saturn technically was the first console to use, well, I think for mobile gaming or whatnot. Didn't really do much on that. So let's look at the back here. High speed 28.8K modem, plugs into your Sega Saturn cartridge port. So this, as you can see, slides into that cartridge port in the back. And you put your phone cable in, your phone cable out. And then powerful bookmark feature saves your favorite websites. So this is mostly for browsing I don't think this is for gaming. Internet service provider, access with Netlink, over 200 local dial-up points, Netlink City, Oasis City, on Planet Oasis, custom CD or 3D City interface available on Netlink. Explore neighborhoods of web content. 200 pre-selected. Yeah, it's had nothing to do with games. I think you could have. I think there was 1 or 2 games that were like kind of small games that you can play multiplayer and connect it, but not for like gaming. Didn't really happen till the Dreamcast as far as consoles go. So there's that. All right, now let's get into the most important thing with a console, and that's its software, the games. We're gonna start here. I should have done this in some kind of order, but I didn't really put an order together here. But let's go through it. So here we go. Pandemonium, fantastic game. I believe this is also on the PS1. A lot of these games will also be PS1 games, but some of them aren't. I'll try to point them out when I get to exclusives and whatnot. But I don't think Pandemonium. I think Pandemonium is on PS1. But it's a fantastic kind of platforming game. I just love the art style and the kind of. This was so 90s, like the weird kind of render look to games and whatnot. This is a one-player game. Let's see if there's anything. Endorphin Overload, Freestyle, 3D camera. Just a bunch of big gobbledygook about the game itself to try to get. There's a lot of marketing stuff back here, but it is a really cool 3D platform, kind of psychedelic 3D platforming game. All right, next up we have Earthworm Jim 2. I'm not sure if this is a PS2 game or not, or PS1 game. I'm really not sure. Probably, I would guess it is, but I believe it's Sega CD and PS or Sega Saturn, obviously. Not sure if it's on PS1. It has to be, right? But anyway, really cool video game. Obviously, you guys know who Earthworm Jim is. I'm pretty sure if you're a gamer. It's a kind of a shooter action-based, somewhat platforming game. But you know, with the kooky character, it was all about the kind of pre-rendered kind of graphic stuff that was going on. And that's really cool animation in this game, in that game series, I should say. All right, this is a Sega Saturn exclusive, and still not on anything else. They haven't re-released this in any way, but here you have a stall, which is a beautiful 2D art. I mean, the Sega Saturn was a 2D beast. So if you wanted like arcade style fighting games, especially 2D graphics, the Sega Saturn was phenomenal at that. Could it do 3D? Yes. It was a little harder to pull off because Sega didn't see the 3D revolution, and so the Sega Saturn was just going to be a 2D powerhouse console, just like a arcade at your house kind of console. And then they saw what Sony was doing, and then they threw in a 3D processor at the end, which is not very intuitive. So that's why it was a little bit harder to program for, a lot harder to program for. But a stall shows you how great of a 2D console this system is. Big, beautiful sprites, beautiful artwork, backgrounds, and whatnot. I forget what they call it, but there's a type of scaling that happens on Sega Saturn where it separates kind of the 2D from the elements in the foreground from the elements in the background, and it looks phenomenal and runs great. It's not a great platformer by any means, but it definitely sticks out to you. It has a really cool intro that people who are Sega fans use for the intro in their game. It starts off like, I forgot how does it go. It's like a Sega. It's like do 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 Sega. Like, it's very memorable. Yeah, it's fantastic little game there. And we'll move on to a not so fantastic game, but it's based on a not so fantastic movie, and that is Street Fighter, the movie, the game. Right? Is that how they word it? Yeah, Street Fighter, the movie. This is Street Fighter, the movie, the game. So they took like pre-rendered kind of what do you call it? Well, they take photorealistic photos of the actors themselves and they put them into the game, kind of like they did with Mortal Kombat back in the day. And so it's kind of weird because Mortal Kombat started off as that, whereas Street Fighter started off as a sprite-based 2D brawler, a 2D fighter. And so to go from that to this kind of stiff kind of setup and graphics and whatnot, Still pretty cool. I like it because it's just weird. I believe this is also on the PS1. But yeah, not the best fighting game, not the best Street Fighter game, that's for sure. But I feel like it's a necessary relic of the time that you have to have. And a much better game is Virtua Fighter 2. Now, I got this originally, like I said, with the 3 free games for Sega Saturn. And this is one of them, Virtua Fighter 2, Virtua Cop 2, or was it Virtua Cop? And Daytona USA. This game is phenomenal. This is my game right here. I played hundreds of hours just against the CPU, like perfecting the techniques, especially Akira here, who is he's very tough to master, but once you do, boy, he's something else. But yeah, the fighters in this are very memorable. This game is just very memorable. Nostalgia all over this game. I just love this game. Fantastic 2D or 3D fighter, set on a 2D plane. This is my fighting game right here. All right, and then you have X-Men: Children of the Atom, which I didn't play a whole lot of, but this is the beginning of like the X-Men versus Street Fighter stuff. So this is all X-Men though, right? Yeah, this one's all X-Men. I believe this was first out of the gate, if I'm not mistaken. But this is kind of a collaboration between Capcom and Acclaim. I think Acclaim did most of the programming for this, and I think you can kind of feel it when you play it that it's not up to like Capcom fighting game standards, but it's a pretty good game. I like it, and yeah, there's just better ones in this ilk, in this genre. Here we have Alien Trilogy, and this is also on PS1. I don't know if Children of the Atom is. I'm not sure. I feel like it is, but I don't know. Here's another Acclaim game. This is a really good FPS game, combining like all the storylines and stuff from the original Alien Trilogy. Because at this time, I don't think, Alien Resurrection wasn't out yet. It came out in '97, I want to say. So this was about, Aliens, and Alien 3. So really cool. I think this is probably a hidden gem that I don't think people look at this as a licensed game, especially in that time. But this is actually a pretty good FPS game. All right, now we have. I should probably save this for a little bit later. I'm gonna save that one a little bit later. Now we get into like Marvel superheroes, and this is all Capcom here. Fantastic, obviously Marvel superheroes fighting game. This is again not all X-Men, not just X-Men, but it's all like the big the big Marvel characters that you know and love from the movies now, and the comic books. Obviously, you have your Hulks, your Wolverines, your Psylocke, and so a lot of the characters you would see in X-Men versus Street Fighter and whatnot, or Marvel vs. Capcom, started off in this game, and phenomenal. So just expect what you expect from like Marvel versus Capcom, but just without the Capcom, without the Capcom characters, and that's what you get from Marvel superheroes. All right, and now Street Fighter Collection. Way before all the collections we're getting at this point, Capcom was already on that bandwagon, at least on the Sega Saturn, with Street Fighter Collection. I don't know if this is also on PS1. I'm guessing it is, but I don't know. But again, this is the definitive version. If you want a 2D fighter, 2D game of any ilk, Sega Saturn, if it had it, is the best way to play it. It always was, because that console is designed for 2D games, especially arcade style. And so here you have Street Fighter Collection, and it has what does it have? So you have Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, which I forgot was on here. But yeah, so great collection, and I think again pretty expensive. I think Marvel Superheroes is up there. Alien Trilogy might be in the middle. I'm not sure about X-Men. What is it called? Children of the Atom. Could be. But yeah, But when you get into the Street Fighter games, they definitely start to go up in price. Here you have the original Street Fighter Alpha. Again, this game, nostalgia berries all over this game, because I had graduated high school at this point, and I was starting engineering school, which I flunked out of because of the math. But next door to the school was a putt-putt golf and games. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like a mini golf place that had an arcade in it. And then in the arcade was the first place I played Street Fighter Alpha. And Street Fighter Alpha blew me away. Like, I didn't know Street Fighter games could look this good, play this well. And Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams was just like, wow. Street Fighter took another step for me that I didn't think they could take. And I really loved Street Fighter Alpha and Alpha 2. And you have Alpha 2, just kind of improved on a lot of stuff. More characters, cool new characters and whatnot, but also awesome game. But again, the first one is the one I have most nostalgia for, but I do love this one as well. And now, this is one of my most expensive Sega Saturn games, I think, and that's Into the Hunt. This is on PS1, I'm pretty sure. This actually got re-released on, I don't know if you can see it back there, but let's see. See the little cartridges there and up there? That's the Evercade. And so there's an Evercade collection with this game. Also, that's a $20, thing that also has other games on it. So if you have an Evercade and you want to play this game, you can play it way cheaper than you can on a Sega Saturn. But this is a phenomenal, like, submarine kind of shooter game. Shmup, if you will, but with submarines, obviously a little slower. But the art in this game, gorgeous. Like 2D arts, 2D sprites, phenomenal in this game. And it is a very sought after game. Like I said, it's somewhat expensive, and it's just really a really nice looking, beautiful playing game as well. All right, and here's one of the games I was super interested in because as a somewhat burgeoning PC gamer, I saw this, Myst, and this is a very PC game. Myst is. This is one of the first games I remember that was just like, not well, in the vein of a video game that was just like not like twitchy and oh my god, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. You kind of laid back and you figured out puzzles and stuff, which I really loved back in the day. And that's one of the things I loved about PC games, because a lot of PC games had that console games didn't. Console games were more action oriented. There was RPGs and whatnot, but they didn't have games like this where you could just like sit back and just take your time with it and figure out these kind of not archaic, but kind of like deep puzzles and whatnot. So love Myst on the Sega Saturn. Loved it on PC as well. And then you have a little game called Croc. And this just got re-released not too long ago. I think the graphics are updated, but you can go back to the original graphics if you want. I think that's the case. And that's on everything. Not too expensive. I mean, it's probably in the $45, $50 range on Sega Saturn if you want to play it that way, which I kind of prefer because it was built for the Sega Saturn and those controls. But if you know the original story, this game was being built as a Yoshi game by Dylan Cuthbert of, what's the name of the, I'm sure it's on here, right? I can't think of it right now, of course. But it was basically the guy, Argonaut Studios, who basically designed Star Fox. They did a lot of work with the Star Fox games up until, what is it called? The DS one. Is it Armada? I can't remember the name of it. But the DS one, Argonaut. And they went up to the 3DS actually. They came back for the re-release. Dylan Cuthbert and whatnot came back for the remaster, remake, whatever you want to call it. And he was making a game that he wanted to pitch to Nintendo as a Yoshi game, but Nintendo was already working on their own Yoshi game, which I think is much worse than this. Yoshi Story, right? Is that what it's called? I can't even remember. Yoshi Story, that game, you can beat it in like 35 minutes. Seriously. And it's just super easy and too cheesy. But yeah, this would have been a cool Yoshi game, but they kind of turned it down. So they ended up making their own game. They made 1 and 2 that came out, and they're really good. I think they're really good games, really good platformers of that era. So here's one of the early games that came out for PS1. Actually, I think this came out on PS1 first. I could be wrong, but this is the remix of it. So this is the fix, because the original one was kind of stank. You know, the graphics weren't quite there. It was pretty slow. This fixes some of those issues. The remix version does, but this is like an early 3D fighter. I'm talking like Virtua Fighter 1. This is an early 3D fighting game, and it's kind of slow, but I like it because of the nostalgia and kind of the memories of it. And yeah, let's move on to Fighting Vipers. We're still in fighting games, so Fighting Vipers, which is a game that I think this is the one. Is this the one that combined fighters from different games? No, not yet. Fighters from this is into the game I'm going to come up with in a minute. But this is kind of like, I just remember this being like kind of it's faster than Virtua Fighter. I think it's made by the same team as Virtua Fighter, if I'm not mistaken. But it was like this weird kind of like almost like motocross looking characters where they had like padding and whatnot. And you know, you had like a inline skate fighter and all kinds of stuff like that. It was kind of drawing on the craze of X Games back then, you know, like biking, BMXing, and motocross and inline skating and all that kind of stuff that was kind of being popular. So they kind of trying to ape off of that. But it's a really good fighting game. I remember the combos being pretty cool in this, and like I said, it was pretty fast. It was faster than like Virtua Fighter, from what I remember. And here's more nostalgia bait. And the disc is moving around in there. I always like the look of the disc. It has like a pink, you know, kind of etching to it. Really nice. Yeah, let's talk about the case while we're having it. The Sega Saturn cases were basically Sega CD cases, but with different, you know, color scheme. Sega CD was all blue. Well, not all blue, but there was like blue everywhere, etching, you know, spine and all that. And the Sega Saturn cases were white and gray, or white and bluish silver. But yeah, really nice. But this is Space Jam, based on the hit movie from '96. And I was expecting this to be a lot better, especially as far as like 2D sprites go, and it was pretty much of a letdown. I was hoping that it was a stall level graphics, but no. I don't know if you can really see it here. It doesn't have the best like screenshots on the back here, and they look pretty crappy. It looked like they just took a picture off of a game itself, off a CRT. It looks kind of crap, and I think the animations and whatnot are kind of crap on this. Yeah, cool. You get the Hanna-Barbera. You get the Looney Tunes characters and whatnot, but let down by the actual size of the sprites and just the animation. But again, nostalgia. Speaking of nostalgia, the movie, you have Independence Day, the game. This game sucks. It's not very good. This is also on PS1. And I think Space Jam might be as well. And maybe Space Jam was just a port from PS1 game, and that's why they didn't look too great. But this game is pretty crappy. And again, I just bought it because it's Independence Day, one of my favorite blockbuster movies from back in the day. Not Blockbuster the store, but you know, Blockbuster franchise. This game I just remember so many countless hours, and when I first got Tomb Raider, I mean, everybody was thirsting after Lara Croft back in the day. You know, this looks kind of funny today, but man, this was glorious for my young teenage mind back in the day. And you know, it was good. It was a little look at the, what do you call it, the cakes. You got the cake back there. But yeah, a lot of young dudes thirsting over Lara Croft Tomb Raider. But the game is actually awesome. It's phenomenal, right? You have these big kind of open areas. You're an explorer. This was Indiana Jones, but a female lead, and fantastic, right? This was a great series. that got ran into the ground and kind of resurrected. But this, I spent so much time on this game. This game was actually built as a exclusive for the Sega Saturn. I don't know, the development house. I know the lead developer on it was a big Sega fan, and they wanted it to be a Sega Saturn exclusive, but Sega Saturn didn't do well, and so the economy spoke, and so they had to port it to PlayStation. And I feel like at this point it's more known as a PlayStation game than it is a Saturn game, which is crazy because, like I said, I don't know if this, I feel like this came out earlier on Saturn. I could be wrong. But this showed you that Saturn can do some really good 3D graphics. Not as good as the Sega or as the PlayStation 1, but negotiable or negligible. It was very, very close. And obviously nobody did it better than in 64. But yeah, this game defined me as in the mid-90s as a gamer. I loved the Tomb Raider series, played and beat and loved all of them. Well, at least in the 90s. And then this is Exhumed. This is actually a game I got somewhat recently. I feel like a year ago. I bought the PAL version because the North American version was much more expensive, and I forget what it's called in North America. It has something to do with demons or devil or something, and that's why they changed the name to Exhumed from the PAL market. I forget what it's called. I'll put it on screen if I can remember. But yeah, really cool FPS game. I think, Doom style. What do you call it? What is that series? Wolfenstein. I'm trying to think of the other one though. But yeah, this is really cool. And like I said, because I have the action replay, I could just play this bad boy on my North American Sega Saturn. It's there. Nice. Complete case there. Alright. I spoke earlier of this game. I just wanted the case, and so I went in and had bought. Because if you buy the 3 free game Sega Saturn, all the games come in these little sleeves, and I wanted a full case, and so I went back and bought the games. Virtual Cop 2 there. This is a phenomenal game, especially if you use the gun, which I do have, but I just didn't pull that out. But you can't play that on a modern TV, unfortunately, so you have to use the controller. But yeah, this is fantastic rail shooter game. One of the best that came out. And back in the day, there was tons of them. I'm just going to move back into, let's see, more fighting games. I actually owned this first on the Japanese version of this first, which is just called, I think, Darkstalkers 2 or something like that. This one is Night Warriors Darkstalkers Revenge, the North American version. And like I said, I also have do I have it handy here? I don't see it. I'll probably pull it up in a second. But yeah, really good Capcom style, or, obviously it's a Capcom game, but, when I say style, you know what kind of fighter you're getting. And it's using all these, I don't know if Darkstalkers is a comic or an anime or something. But just really interesting looking character designs, kind of gothic and whatnot. Really cool there. And let's move on, because I already showed you Virtual Fighter, Virtual Cop, and now these are the other 2 games that I bought earliest with my Sega Saturn. Bug, which I believe is like Steven Spielberg produced or something. Let's see if it says it on the back here or not. I don't see it. I just remember him promoting this back in the day, if I'm not mistaken. So you have Bug, and then you have Bug 2, T-O-O, but it's the sequel to this. And this is like a pseudo 3D platformer. I thought is really cool. It's a really cool series. And like the style of 3D platformer is pretty good too. But yeah, Bug. And the other early game I got, one of the earliest games I got, probably within the first month, because I think this was a launch title, Clockwork Knight. And this is not like the thing that stands out most about this game is the kind of graphical style and the animation. You play as this toy, clockwork, kind of a wind-up toy that uses a keyblade. Beat Kingdom Hearts to the keyblade. But yeah, it's a cool little kind of action platformer game, and I think 2 is probably better. And the cool thing about, I think it's only the Japanese version. The Japanese version of 2 also includes the full Part 1 game, if I'm not mistaken, and that's awesome. So if you want to get the Japanese Part 2, because you don't really need, English language in the game. It's pretty easy to follow. And I have a lot of Sega Saturn games that are or Japanese games that are easy to follow in English, or as without the English text and whatnot. So, well, here it is. I talked about it, but here is Bug 2, and it's just improvement games. A lot of times the sequels to mid-90s games were just as good, if not better, than the original, and just kind of improved on stuff and expanded on stuff. So, yeah, I don't know if this one says it either, but I feel like Steven Spielberg had something to do with this series. Let's see. All right, and yeah, I've just pulled out a Sega Saturn game just to show you how similar it is to. It's exactly the same size, just different artwork. So the color scheme right there. You get to check out this color scheme, front and back. So yeah, this is Mickey Mania, which is, I remember not being that great on Sega CD. So there's that. All right. Here's another early game, Robotica, which I thought was pretty cool. Didn't have the best controls, but I just thought it was an interesting kind of corridor, kind of FPS game, shooter game. I just like this kind of style to it. It had this style that I liked. Interesting. Yeah, so let's put that there. Actually, I'll just give you a quick look at the artwork on the back. You can see, I just like the style of it. It has a nice visual style. Interesting kind of game. And, of course, early game as well, Panzer Dragoon. Now, this is the limited run. You can see kind of special edition case for the remaster of the game, which I don't feel is a remaster. I didn't care for it. So I just bought the case on eBay because I didn't have the full-size Sega Saturn case for my original game. This is the original game, and these cases are really cool. The special edition cases for Sega Saturn games, because it is a full-on real case. And so that is my actual game, Panzer Dragoon, my real Sega Saturn game that I bought back in the day. But I think my case broke and I lost the artwork or something. Maybe I never even had the artwork, at least not the booklet, because that's what the front. If you're wondering, the front artwork is the actual instruction manual, instruction booklet, and the back is just like a slide panel, just a paper panel of it. But this is cool because I got to get a brand new case for Panzer Dragoon. And it's great. And so you have Panzer Dragoon, you have the sequel, Panzer Dragoon's Way, which I think improved on it in every way. If you don't know about the Panzer Dragoon series, it's very Star Fox-like. It's like, on-rails kind of shooter, but 3D. But Panzer Dragoon, unlike Star Fox, will let you... there's missions in Star Fox that are all-range mode, so you can do all around. But anytime you want in Panzer Dragoon, you can get like a side view, I think a rear view, and you can shoot stuff that's coming behind you, stuff that's coming from the side of you. So that was always really cool about that series. And then for the third game, it completely changed. It transitioned to a full-on Final Fantasy, wanted to compete with Final Fantasy VII RPG. I think it's better. Panzer Dragoon Saga, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Azel, Panzer Dragoon Azel in Japan. But yeah, this is a full-on RPG, and the cool thing about this is that this is full-on, 3D, behind the back 3D worlds. So you get to do, your dragon flying, and you have battles turn-based battles in the sky, but you also get around and you walk around as yourself in full 3D areas, which Final Fantasy VII did not do. Not that it, I didn't mind. I did still like Final Fantasy VII for what it was. The pre-rendered backgrounds is gorgeous and whatnot. But yeah, so this was proving that the Sega Saturn was a 3D powerhouse as well. This is one of the games that proved it, but it just came out in 1998. So by then, the Sega Saturn was pretty much dead, and it was too late. And that's why this game is so expensive, because they didn't make that many copies, at least North American copies. There's plenty of Japanese copies that you can get for cheaper, $40. But the Japanese and PAL region copies were kind of sparse. And that's one thing I forgot to mention. In Japan, Sega Saturn did really well. It did better than the N64 in that region. So that's why the games are cheaper if you get the Japanese version, because there's just more of them. There's more copies because it just sold better in Japan than it did anywhere else. But yeah, Sega Saturn, or Sega Panzer Dragoon Saga. This is a repro because I'm wanting to afford the original, but this looks so good. This is a reproduction of the game itself. This is the Sega Saturn case. It's phenomenal. There's one of the games, one of the discs there. Here's this is a 4-disc game, by the way. Just like wasn't Final Fantasy VII 4-disc, or was it 3? I think it was 4. But anyway, yeah, this is a amazing repro, and the repros today are insane. Just trying to get this out without denting it. This is a full-on instruction manual. It's not just a cover, which they could have easily done, but this is exactly how it looked. It was in black and white on the original, and this is a full-on instruction manual. They went in on this. But yeah, repros today are insane. So if you want to get the original, you can spend $800 plus for the North American version, or you can just buy this, which I think I paid $65 for. Yeah, $65. I think it even came with this little protective sleeve. Yeah, this is great. This is great. And I'll just put that away. And again, if I just want to play it, I'll play it on my Sega Saturn. That I can just play the files. Now we're gonna get to some of the Japanese games. Here you have Dead or Alive. This is where it started. This is only in Japanese. I don't know if this came out on the PS1 or not, but on the Saturn it was Japan only. Phenomenal. Nice jiggle physics. But yeah, this is a phenomenal fighting series. Just beautiful visuals, beautiful graphics in all the games. And then you have Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. This is when they started doing the crossover stuff. Yeah, this is the game that I believe it requires the 4 megabyte expansion. So you need that, and I'll show you that in a second. Yeah, beautiful. I like a lot of times I like the Japanese disc covers. I don't know if I say better, but I really like them. And here you have X-Men versus Street Fighter, which is, I used to get mixed up all the time. So this is Marvel Superhero versus Street Fighter, and this is X-Men versus Street Fighter. So that's the differences. And here is the complete case here for that. And so let's pop this open. And inside you have, if I can pull it out, that's what he said. There's the game disc right there, and that's what it came in originally. And then you have the 4 megabyte expansion card that came with it. And this is, I like the design of this because it's like a clear kind of steel blue, kind of see-through blue, and it's really nice. And yeah, this is not memory. I think a memory card. You can't save any games to this, I don't believe, but it does have the 4 megabyte expansion, just like the N64 does. N64 used it a lot more, obviously, and used it for North American games, where this only used it for Japanese games. So let's put this back together. Close that up. And here you have the Japanese version of Burning Rangers. And again, I didn't own this game back in the day. I ended up buying this in mid-2000s, I think, the Japanese version, because the North American version was already expensive at that point, and it just got more and more expensive. It's in the hundreds now, maybe 400 for that game. But I had the original Japanese game, but I also bought this repro, which is English, so I can play the game in English, and I have an original case for it for the repro. But I still have the original, like I said, the original Japanese game. And here is a copy of Nights into Dreams. I don't know when I got this. I have the full big case of it somewhere because that's how I bought it. No, I know how I got this now. I just remember. This was the one that came with the 3D controller. And so they wanted to put it in a box with the controller itself, so it wouldn't be too much difference in size, so you can put it in the same box. And that's why it came in this little case. Now remember, that's why it says not for resale, because it came with that controller. And yeah, and that's kind of how you want to play Nights into Dreams, is using a 3D controller. So there you have it. There's the game. There's the back art. And do I need to say much more about Nights that you don't already know? And here we have Dark Savior, which is a very cool kind of action RPG-ish, but not quite. It is turn-based RPG. This is the Japanese case, as you can see right there, because that's the only case. I ended up buying the Japanese game because it was way cheaper to get the case that way. But this is the North American game that I actually have, because I had this loose. I bought this loose years ago, maybe 20 years, 15 years ago. And so there you have so I have the Japanese case because I want a nice case for it, and I don't want to spend too much. I think I paid like 20, and I got the game I already had. So this is a really cool game, Steam Gear Mash. This game is really cool. This is one of those Japanese games. There is a little tiny bit of language barrier, but I think you can figure it out mostly just by playing it. I did, but you can look it up. I think at this point you can look it up to see what means what, or you can look up something online, you know, not just video, but like you go to a website and find some stuff that will translate the things that you need to know, because there is some like gear that you need. You need to understand what these certain buttons you're pressing are about. But this game is very playable if you don't know Japanese. And boy, the ending. You can beat this entire game, just be going through it, beat the entire game. And there's an end sequence that you have to escape. You know, it's an escape sequence at the end. If you don't beat that sequence, you have to start the entire game over. That's brutal. You don't get to start at the beginning of that sequence. If you die in that sequence in the game, you have to play the entire game over. But really good game though. How do I explain it? It's like an action platformer-ish kind of game where you get this Steam Gear, which is some kind of a cool tank kind of mech character that you can get different weapons for. Pretty cool. Alright, we're almost done here. Oh yeah, I already showed this, so I talked about it anyway. This is Clockwork Knight 2. This comes with one. This is the Japanese version, and it comes with Clockwork Knight 1. I like the artwork for this especially. This case is broken, but look at that. It's really nice with the coloring and the kind of shiny. It's really good. Clockwork Knight 2, and your character's name is Pepperosha? Whatever. Revenge. And here we have, real quick, Street Fighter Remix. Alright, so Street Fighter, when it first came out on the Sega Saturn, was pretty bad. It was in rushed shape, and so the remix fixed all the issues with it and basically brought it up to did I say Street Fighter? Virtua Fighter. Bring it up to Virtua Fighter 2's quality. Because Virtua Fighter 2 came out quality, super great. But Virtua Fighter 1, when it first launched, was not good. It was rushed. Daytona USA was similar, and they had to do the same thing with Daytona USA. There's a championship edition that came out later that fixed all the kind of pop-up issues and whatnot, frame rate. So that's what this does for a Virtua Fighter. But even though this is a Japanese case, I have the actual, again, English US region game. So that's cool. I just wanted this case. I think the case is just cooler anyway than the North American one. It has like hand-drawn artwork instead of that pre-rendered kind of 3D crap that happened a lot in this time period. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this. So you have Sega Sanshiro. You can't play this game if you don't speak Japanese, but the only reason I bought this was because Sega is a character that was in the Japanese commercials for Sega Saturn, and he just basically went around and beat people up to get them to play Sega Saturn. You should look up the commercials online. Segata, like Sega with a T-A, Segata, Sanshiro. And it has a cool theme song and everything. He runs around and beats up kids. It is hilarious, and I wish they would have put this character over here. Not unlike the Wii would like to play guys for Wii. Like, yeah, it was Japanese. It was very kind of eccentric Japanese kind of stuff, but it worked for the Wii. And I wish they would have put Segata over here, because that would help the Sega Saturn sell better. Hilarious commercials. All right, and then we have Three Dirty Doors. This is a sad game for me. This is the Sega Saturn case, but I have the USA game. But the problem with this is that you might not be able to see it, but this thing has disc rot. There are spots, clear spots all over this. This is going to be dead at some point. I already fixed this once. You see that little weird kind of, strong white streak there on the inside of the disc right there? I melted that back together because that was a crack. That was cracking down the disc. So, I don't know, there's something about this disc that doesn't want to survive. I mean, it is super old, but this is disc rotting. I'm going to have to replace this because this is a really cool game. So, 3 players at once game, but you control 3 characters. You can swap between, and it's an action game, and it has really nice, beautiful 2D artwork with some 3D thrown in. There's a really cool boss fight with like a Rat King or whatever, and it's one of the early boss fights. You can kind of see it right there on the back. It's that middle one, wrong side, right there. You're not going to be able to see it on this camera, but let me see if I do that. No, it's not helping. Anyway, really cool game, beautiful artwork, really cool pseudo 3D design. And last but not least is Virtual On. Now again, this is the Sega, this is the Japanese case, but I have inside the North American game. And I did that a lot when I had cases that broke, started missing. I just buy the Japanese game because a lot of time the artwork is really cool, and I have a new place to put it. So yeah, that's it. That's my celebration for the Sega Saturn. Hope you guys enjoyed it. My second favorite console of all time. I think it sold at least about the same, or maybe a little under what the Sega Dreamcast sold, which is crazy. Again, Sega Saturn was getting no love back in the day. Sega shot themselves in the foot a lot with the Sega Saturn, and that just kind of stumbled over into the Dreamcast and hurt the Dreamcast as well. The Dreamcast didn't have a chance. The Dreamcast was a lot better than as powerful than we thought it was. And I'll talk about that in an upcoming video. So it's really sad what happened to the Dreamcast. But it started with the Sega Saturn. That's where the issue started, and they just could never recover, unfortunately. But yeah, that's my video. Let me know what you guys think. Are you fans of the Sega Saturn? Do you enjoy this console as much as I do? Still to this day, I play on it, game on it all the time. It's great. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Happy birthday to the Sega Saturn. 30 years old. Oh my god, that means I'm super old too. But yeah, thank you again for watching and listening, and I'll see you fools next time. Peace out.